students, participants, parents that were not students involved, I cannot thank y'all enough. The last 2 days have been very rough. When your kids get home, they will tell you the same thing. They have gone through more emotion in the last 2 days than they've probably gone through in a lifetime. Hopefully, when they get home, they will share that with you. I've got a few basic alcohol-related stats that I'm going to go over. I will also, after I'm done with that, we will have a short, I'm not sure how long, video, 20-minute video slideshow of what we did yesterday. We also have 2 guest speakers today that are going to relate to you how alcohol has affected their lives. I've also got a student who's going to come up and speak to you and relate how alcohol has affected her life. And then I have a parent. One of the parts of the program is the parents have to write letters to their children, telling them what they would love to say to them if the children were no longer here. You know, like a last letter ever written. And I've got a parent that has, graciously accepted to come up here and read that letter. Like Mr. Hewitt said, it's going to be very emotional. My fellow Shattered Dreams staff, for lack of better words, and the 19 kids involved in this program have been through a rough night, and probably the next hour, a rough hour. I appreciate your reverence here, and we will get y'all back to school as quickly as we can. Since January 1st of 2009 to present in Bastrop County, there have been 2 individuals that have died due to alcohol-related accidents. There have been 10 DWI arrests for a intoxicated accident. So, in less than 6 months, less than 5 months, we have had 2 deaths and 10 people go to jail, actually 12 people go to jail, as a result of alcohol-related accidents. I can tell you that in 2008, there were 97 alcohol-related accidents in Bastrop County. 2008, there were 11 major injury accidents that were alcohol-related. Another fatal accident in Bastrop County. So in the last year and a half, we've had 3 people that have died in this county as a result of alcohol-related accidents. I have a lot more stats, but I'm not going to go over them. If anyone would like to know some of the stats, they can contact me at the school, and I will gladly go over them with you. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to J.W. Breeden, who is going to do the slideshow of what we did yesterday, and then I'll come back up. Thank you.
X-ray in front seat passenger high speed cooler and trouble getting radio pulse. An AC gauge in the right seat.
Let's listen here.
Alright, there's a good blood.
Come on, everyone.
Just your blood. Yeah. Got it.
I got it.
Yeah, go ahead and run it. Just calm down.
Is it getting harder to breathe? Are you breathing okay? Let's see what we got going on here. Your bones stick out there. So when you come in with C-spine chest pulse.
You move your right foot. Look at your toes.
Okay, let's get in here and do this X-ray then.
Has an open fracture? Yes. And you move a little bit of stabilizing this foot on here. Two more patients. Anybody know if the parents are on their way and been notified? Was told that parents were on their way. They've been called from the scene. Okay. Please place.
Oh, it is? Watch out because she has a ruptured spleen and blood's up already.
Yeah, blood's up.
Where's that helicopter at?
Filling her out. Get some more blood.
Give me an abdominal training. You know, if she starts coding, we're going to have to crack her chest and plant her aorta. What's going on? Okay, let's go ahead and get her intubated in. Tell them I can get 100 something. Some antidote ready to go.
We're going to have to meet a funeral home outside with her. So let's just go ahead. So they take her to the morgue in town? Yeah, they're going to take her over for the autopsy. This is so sad. This one. No, that's what I said earlier. She has how much left to live? Very briefly. Mom is just torn up.
Okay, so just this messed up arm here. So let's get a C-spine chest pulse and this right upper extremity X-ray. And get her a couple milligrams of morphine. Okay. So does this hurt back here at all? Okay, we're just going to leave it in here until we get a conviction. All right. Fracture of the leg. So just force it and open. C-spine chest pelvis, right upper extremity, C-spine
I'm in number one here on the other side. Can anybody help me on the other side? Thank you.
All right. All right. I'm just going to listen. Okay. So what happened? Hello.
My baby doesn't even drink. He's graduating next week.
Hospitalized or recently seen a medical or psychiatric doctor for any illnesses. You know, using any medication. Have you recently fainted? Or had a recent head injury? History of epilepsy? Tuberculosis? You have diabetes? Hepatitis? Have any painful dental condition? Do you have any medical condition that we should know about? 21 miles. Blackwell, what's your first name? Nicholas Blackwell from Bastrop, Texas. He doesn't have a driver's license on him, so we have to find a name that works. Nicholas. Nicholas. N-I-C-H-O-L-A-S. Your birthday? 12/5/91. Yes, sir.
I'm going to give you another quick stat. That same scenario is played out in the state of Texas every 15 to 20 minutes every day. People believe that. Our next guest speaker will be Catherine Layton. Catherine.
There's probably a lot of people out here who've been through this kind of thing, or some maybe not at all. Imagine receiving a phone call saying that something bad has happened to the person you love the most. Imagine a cop knocking at your door telling you your shoe didn't make it. Imagine people at school telling you that the rumors that you heard were your worst nightmare, which have sadly come true. Imagine getting someone who thought would always be there for you torn out of your life. Imagine the person who is your best friend getting taken away from you because of drunk or violent driving. It was May 23rd, 2004, when my dad's best friend called my mom, saying that something happened on the way back from their bike ride. As soon as my mom heard the news of her husband, she called her best friend. A while after that, when everyone was waiting anxiously for the news, there was a knock at the door. Wanting it to be my father, but it was sadly a cop, bearing horrible, horrific news. My mom was too afraid to answer, so our family friend did. Our family friend came into the house shaking his head. From there on, they knew that night my dad was gone. I was at my friend's house, and my mother picked me up the next day. It seemed like nothing was wrong, except for my aunt was in the car with my mom. I was only 11, so I was curious to why she was here. So I asked her if she was here for my birthday, which was tomorrow. She said no. Then I asked her if she was here for my sister's graduation in 3 days. She said no. And I was like, then why are you here? And all she replied was, you'll see. That's not something you want to hear. Not girl 11. When I got home, I failed to notice that my father wasn't there. What was there was a sound of grief and mourning. My mother sat me on the couch on her lap and told me something bad had happened. My first instinct was my grandma, because she was elderly. What's wrong? I finally noticed who wasn't there. It was my dad. Right. The next day was my birthday, and sadly ended up being rosary, because we're Catholic. I had a dream about him one day, about him coming back. And he said, I asked him about how's heaven and how's everything going. And he said, it's good. I said, you talked to your mom? He said, yeah. And we started leaving. I said, Dad, why are you leaving? You can't go, you're going to die. And he told me that I'll never die, I'll always be within the spirit and emotions and spiritually and forever with me. I come to y'all to help you understand, to not take things for granted, to not look at people expecting them to be there tomorrow, but to live each day to its fullest. When you say goodbye or goodnight to them, that may be the last. When they kiss you before you go to sleep, that may be the last. When you say I love you, that may be the last. When you look at them in the eyes and tell them everything is going to be alright, that may be last. I don't remember what my dad looks like, laughs like, anything. I don't remember anything about him. The only way I do remember things is by photos. And I don't want that to happen though. So please be smart and consider other people's lives and friends and family before you think. Because if you do, you may take someone who is less turned away like mine was. He'll always be with me spiritually and emotionally. Because of alcohol abuse, physically he's gone.
Thank you, Catherine. Our next speaker will be Barbara Reba. She's from Weimar, Texas.
I brought a picture because I think it helps to know who I'm talking about. I hope you can see, put it right here. This was my son Blake. And my shattered dream started on August 27th, 2005. It was a scrimmage game against Smithville here. And my son had a little injury, nothing big. You know, he was a jock, he loved his football, loved his powerlifting, and since it was a scrimmage, they decided he was going to sit this out. So my husband and I just kind of decided, well, you know, we'd just be sitting there watching his butt stand on the sideline, so we stayed home. But we listened to the game on the radio, on TV, KDLG, and I'm sure much to his chagrin, y'all beat us. So I'm sure he was not very happy about that. The game lasted till about 10:30, kind of ran kind of late. So I figured I'd be getting a phone call from him somewhere between 11:30 and 12, and sure enough I did. He said, Mom, he goes, I'm gonna go spend the night at Oscar's house. And I said, no, you need to come on home. No, it's okay. And I said, no, you get your contacts. I bet you don't have a contact case. No, I do. I'll be fine. And I really didn't think anything of that, because as a matter of fact, I had a blanket and pillow on our couch, because the boys would spend the night with each other instead of maybe driving home if they were tired. And that was fine. I'd rather have these boys sleeping on my couch or in another, the spare bedroom, because I know they're safe and they're fine. So, okay, I kind of, I had this feeling. I had this little gut feeling that I should have just said, no, you come home. We fell asleep. About 2:30, the phone rang. And And let me tell you, parents, it's as bad as it gets. It is as bad as they say it is. It was another mother, her daughter had called. 2 carfuls of kids, 5 in the first one, 3 in the second one, got this idea to go to Brenham. There was a graduate that May of 2005 who was at Brenham at Glen, and they were having a party. So they decided to go to Brenham. Now my son knew to lie to me. He knew he better lie, because he knew I would have never condoned that at that time of night to drive to Brenham. So he knew he had to make up the story of going to his friend's house, because he knew the answer would have been no. The mother said, Barbara, I don't know how to tell you this, so I'm just going to tell you, there's been a car wreck. Helicopters are coming, they're being life-flighted, you need to get to Herman. Now I can tell you, I do not remember getting from horizontal to vertical. I do not remember getting there. I remember getting dressed, and then another phone rang. It was one of the kids in the second car. Said, Miss Reba, he gave me his name. He goes, I just want to let you know, Blake's okay. He's up walking around. As a matter of fact, he looks like he's the least hurt of them all. So I just, immediate relief. Well, if he's up walking, he can't be hurt bad. Maybe he's got some suture jobs, maybe he's got a broken shoulder or an arm, but evidently he's up and walking, so he's okay. Ironically, we drove to Herman with the parents of the driver of the car. There were 3 helicopters, 2 were doubles, 1 single. All 5 kids in the first car were all ejected from the car. All 5 kids were not wearing seatbelts. On the way to Herman, my phone rang, and it was the hospital. And they asked, is this Miss Reba? Are you Blake's mother? And yes, and they wanted insurance information and all this. And I said, well, after I gave all that, I said, may I ask you how you got my phone number? And they said, your son gave it to me. So there again, if he could give them that, he must be all right or not hurt bad. So I really did not have a sense of urgency or a big fear. My fear was for the other kids. What was wrong with the other kids? We get to Herman, and the first thing that we get there, and I didn't really like this, and I don't know if things have changed, but because of HIPAA and confidential rules, they were given nicknames. They weren't called by their names. They were given, one was uniform. Blake was given the name X-Ray 325. They all had different names. And while I went to find my son, I saw one of the other boys on a stretcher. And I went to him, because I didn't think Blake was hurt very bad. And I was like, well, I'll get to him, because I knew this boy's parents wasn't there yet. And the only thing he said to me was, Miss Reba, it hurts so bad. He had a broken leg. But that was the least of his problems to come. His main injury is that he was not knocked unconscious. He remembers seeing everything. He remembers seeing his friends lying in the road, lying in the fields, moaning, and 2 were basically dying. So I told him I'd get back with him. I needed to go find Blake. I went to a nurse and I asked where my son was. And I don't know if she did not realize that I did not know what had happened in the meantime, or she didn't know how to deal with it, but she just pointed into this room. So here I go into this room expecting to hear him say, Mom, thank goodness you're here. Mom, what took you so long? You know, whatever. How's everybody else? When I walked in, there was my son. Tubes coming everywhere, out of his nose, out of his mouth. That was the tube that was in his lungs to breathe for him. He had the C-collar. He had the bandages, just like in the movie. He had a tube draining his bladder. He had a tube coming out of his nose, emptying his stomach. Now, I'm a surgical nurse at the hospital in Weimar. This was not someone who is fine and up walking around. I do not remember even breathing. All I did was I just stood there. The doctor came, took us into the room, and the parents of the driver were in there, and also another parent, and told me that my son's brain had herniated, which means it had swollen and was coming out from his skull, and that was non-compatible with life, and he was not going to make it. I knew at that moment that I wanted to donate his organs. I could not let him die for nothing. In the meantime, the other kids, one girl, we knew was not going to make it. And it's very ironic. They were both on the passenger side, and they both had exact same head injuries. The driver had leg injuries. The boy that was in the very back, it was this older Suburban, had multiple injuries, and we did not know if he was going to make it or not. I cannot tell you what it was like to go from thinking he's all right, he's okay, to discovering that my baby is gone, he is dead. He is brain dead, and the only thing that was keeping him alive were those machines. We spent the day at Herman that day. They were running tests. They have to do tests, of course, to make sure that there was no possibility that he could make it. And also there was a bunch of wrecks in Houston that day, and the organ donation crew was busy. They ran tests, and the only question I was scared to ask, I wasn't worried about the HIV, I wasn't worried about hepatitis C, I wasn't worried about drugs. I knew he did not do that. But I had to ask the life gift coordinator, was there alcohol in my son's system? And she said no. Blake's mistake was he got into a car with a driver who had been drinking. He was pronounced brain dead at 11:10, August 27th, 2005. Katie, the girl who was with him, was pronounced brain dead the next day because she had had some muscle twitching. We spent the night at Memorial Herman sleeping on the floor. They were kind enough to give us a room so we could all stay. They wanted me to go home, but there was no way I could leave my baby. They were so good, they let me go in. And I held his hand, and I kissed him, because I knew I was not going to have very much more time with him. I could not believe that I was not going to be able to talk to him, to kiss him, to touch him, to see him graduate, to have children, to get married. I could not believe this was happening to us. Sunday night, I made a very unusual request, and I'm sure Herman has never had a request like this since. But I told him, I understand that he's brain dead and being kept alive by a ventilator. And I said, the only way I will donate his organs if I am there when you take him off the machine. And I'm sure you mothers can understand this, and your fathers too. I'm not just trying to sell y'all short here. I told them I was there when I gave birth to him, and I would be there when he dies, or when they take him off the machine. And I want to hold him, because I held him when he was born, and I'm going to hold him when he dies. So they put me in a jumpsuit. I also promised I would not make a scene. They understood I was a surgery nurse and I knew what was going on. So that night, they suited me up. I went into the OR. Of course, they had a screen up where I couldn't see because I didn't want to see. And I cradled his head and told him how much I loved him. And I was so proud of him, and I was so proud to be his mother. And how much I would miss him. And I stayed until I saw his lips turn blue. And I had to leave because I knew I was about to lose it. And I promised I wouldn't make a scene. They were watching me like a hawk. They were watching me. The organ donation was over. They were letting him die. So I stepped out. Katie's donation occurred the next day, on Monday. She was pronounced dead Sunday. The exact same increase as my son. Oscar had surgery that Sunday, and we didn't know if he was going to make it. And of course did autopsies. So we did not have the visitation until Wednesday. School was let out on Thursday for Blake's funeral, and school was let out, and students were driven to the churches in buses for Friday's services. I did not realize the extent that this affected the community. Here, I was just so involved in my own grief. I could not believe this was happening to us. But it did. These kids had no one intended to hurt anybody. They did not go out meaning to get killed or to kill someone. But it did because the driver had been drinking. His suffering was just beginning. He was convicted of intoxication, manslaughter, 2 counts, and 3 counts of the negligent homicide, 2 negligent homicide, 2 intoxication, manslaughters, and 3 intoxication assaults. That's not something you want to have on your record, and that's sure not a memory you want to keep. He slit his wrist twice, was put in a psychiatric unit, and he served his time. He now works at a grocery store because he cannot get a job because he's a convicted felon. His first job, the only people he could get to hire him was Burger King. And I'm not, believe me, I eat at Burger King, so I'm not belittling it. But this was an honor student going for a law degree And the only job he can get is at Burger King, and then he did get a job at Banana Republic as a box boy, because they are in the program that hires convicted felons. And he has the memory and the guilt of driving 2 of his friends killed, 3 injured. One of the other boys wanted to join the service, and he cannot now because of the rods in his leg, because of his injuries. He has to live with the memory of seeing all this. The third boy that was so critical did make it, but he's not the same. He's changed. He wants to go by a different name now. He has little tweaks. He was a very laid-back boy. He's not the same, and he has a hearing loss and a limp. 5 lives were changed that night. I'm just here to tell you guys, it can't happen to you, it happened to us. I hate depression medicine. I tried not to take it, and now I do understand why they say do not stop this medication suddenly without consulting your doctor. Because I got very depressed, and I had some pretty dark thoughts. If it wasn't for my faith in God and my other son, who I could not let think I didn't love him enough to live for, I don't know if I'd even be here today to talk to you. In closing, I'd like to read a poem. This necklace I have on was given to me by a close friend. It has you can't really see it very good. It's a heart and it has a hole in it. And it has Blake's initials on the back, which happens to be my initials, but they're meant to be for my son. I've told my husband I'm to be buried with this necklace. He may remarry. I died before him, and I said, he may marry some little blonde floozy or something, but ain't nobody else will wear this necklace but me. And I'm going to be buried with it. This watch I wear is my son's watch. He died with this watch on. Told my husband, if they want to keep it, should I die first, they can. If not, bury me with this watch. I don't care what dress they put me in. I don't care what lipstick or anything like that. But I'm going to have this necklace on. And I'd like to read the poem that goes with this. Since heaven has become your home, I sometimes feel that I'm alone. And though we now are far apart, you hold a big piece of my heart. I never knew how much I'd grieve when it was time for you to leave, or just how much of my heart would ache from that one fragment you would take. God, let this tiny hole remain, reminding me we'll meet again. And one day all the pain will cease when he restores this missing piece. For Jesus heals each tiny part that holds your memory in my heart. This necklace is a keepsake to remind me of my love for you. Thank you very much.
Ms. Reaper does, you know this, she does now, but last night we had 2 guest speakers that I had come talk to the 19 adult in the program. And one of them was another mother who lost her son that same day, and the other gentleman was a gentleman that was driving a vehicle. So they've got the whole story now, and it is very, very. At this time, I'd like to invite Jenny Rao to come up.
Thank you all for being here. This is my farewell letter to my beautiful daughter, Faith. Dear Faith, had I only known that this morning would have been our last morning together, I would have made you stay home and curl up in the bed together and just talk. And of course, Daisy would have been right there in the middle of us. Had I only known that this was going to be your first and last prom, I would have personally called Vera Wayne to design your dress. Had I only known this was your last week with me, you could have skipped school and we would have gone to the beach. Had I only known that last Christmas was our last Christmas together, we would have jumped on a plane to New York City and spent the whole holiday there, going to shows, Times Square, Rockefeller Center, and of course shop. Had I only known that you would never make it to college, I would not have made you study so much in high school. Had I only known that Monday night was your last night to spend over at Blakely's, y'all could have spent every school night together. Had I only known you would only own one car in your life, I would have made sure it was the Range Rover you always wanted. Had I only known that the summer of 2008 was your last summer, I would not have told you that working hard at the Hyatt would build character. I would have taken you on a cruise around the world instead. Had I only known that you would have gotten into the car with a driver who had been drinking, the doors in our house would have been bolted shut and locked from both sides. Why didn't you just call me and say, "Mommy, please come get me"? Before you could have blinked, I would have been there. I'm not real sure how I'm supposed to live here without you. You were our godsend. He gave you to us to get through losing your dad and Brandon, I thought. You were the light in all of our lives. I didn't know it would be for only such a short season. I was expecting to have you my lifetime. You and your brothers were my only purpose for going on after losing Dad, and now you too. Something's just not right here. There is no color outside now except for gray and black. There is no air left to breathe. It seems to be 120 degrees in the middle of summer and someone's draped a long, heavy wool coat over me. And I can't breathe and I can't seem to get out of it. Nothing good is left if you're not here to share it with me. I know I still have my boys, but they are not you. They don't get me. It was always you and me against them. Now I will no longer have anyone on my side. Faith, please come home. I can't do this without you. God, please take someone else, like the homeless guy on the corner or the abusive husband and father or even me. But God, please, not Faith. Can anyone hear me? The void is too great, the hole in my heart is too big, and it'll never be whole again. I want to join you and Dad and Brandon. Can you talk to him, Faith, and see if I can join you all there? Blake and Daisy aren't doing too well. Blake seems to think that no one will ever make her laugh again the way you did. Daisy wanders into your room several times a day looking for you. What are we going to do without you? I must close for now, but I will write you every day until I see your smiling face again. So for now, I will say, good night, sweet angel. I'll see you in the morning, Mommy.
last guest speaker of the day is Brittany Cooper. She's from Gerald, Texas.
Okay, I thought a lot about what I wanted to say to everybody. I didn't want to come up here and give a bunch of statistics and facts that you probably won't remember anyway. Instead, I just want to tell you a story. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. It was the summer after I graduated high school, and I was closing up at work, and a friend came in and told me that I should call my brother because there had been an accident, but she wasn't sure of the details. So I didn't really think anything, you know. I knew there was a party that night, and I know, knowing my brother, he probably was there. So I called him, but he didn't answer. And I knew that he had been with a couple of friends, so I called them, and still no answer. A couple of friends were with me, so they started calling everybody they could think of that might have been at the party. Finally, one of my friends got the smart idea to call the sheriff's department and see if they could give us any information. When we got a hold of an officer, he said that all he could tell us was that there had been an accident and that they had starlighted the kids to Scott and White and Temple. So we were like, okay, whew, you know, at least they're still alive, you know. So we started driving to Scott and White, and that's when my phone rang. And it was a friend of my brother's who had been at the party. And I just assumed that he was going to tell me, you know, that there had been an accident, just tell me what I already knew. So I answered, and I was like, yes, hey, you know, meet us at the hospital. They starlighted them there. And he was silent for a minute. And he said the words that still kill me today. He said, Britt, don't go. He didn't make it. And I was like, you're crazy. Don't tell me that. Don't talk to me like that. I was like, I know he's fine. Just meet me at the hospital and you'll see. He's like, Brittany, I'm so sorry. It's like, but he died. My friends drove me to the accident site because I had to see it for myself. But they wouldn't let me anywhere near the vehicle. They assured me that I didn't want to see. I didn't want to see. My friends drove me home, and it just so happened that my mom was out of town that weekend. So I had nobody except for my friends. My dad showed up later. He had been sleeping, and he had been waken up by some of the people at the party. And he had gone out to try to find me. I was sitting in my brother's room when he came home, and I ran out into the hall, hoping he would tell me that it wasn't true. And you know, he's my dad. He should be the strong one. But he fell in the hallway because he couldn't. Anyways, a lot of people tell you stories about how they lost a loved one due to a drunk driver. But my story is a little different because my brother was the drunk driver. And I hesitated telling this story before because I didn't want people to think that just because he did that, that made him a bad kid, because he wasn't. He was a good kid, and he was smart and loving and caring. But he made a really bad decision. He chose to go to that party. He chose to drink, and he chose to drive his friends home that night. Luckily, no one else in the car was injured, except for one kid who broke his leg. But everybody walked away, except for my brother. I'm relatively close to y'all's age, so I know. I've been to the parties. I know what the kids say. They say, you know, oh, I've only had a couple drinks, I'm fine to drive home. Oh, my house isn't that far away, I can make it. I've even heard people say that they're a better driver when they're drunk because they're more careful. Those are all excuses, silly excuses that you say to make yourself feel better for making a bad decision. The truth of the matter is, my brother was a really good driver. He was always safe and careful. But he made a really bad decision, and it cost him his life. And it didn't only cost him his life, it cost me my life with him in it. He was one of my best friends, and you can't get that back. My brother was less than 5 miles away from our house when he died. He had driven on those roads 100 times. He knew that there was a stop sign. He knew that you could go left or right. But because he was drinking, he was not thinking straight, and he ran the stop sign and ran head into a tree. They said he died on impact, but that doesn't make it any easier. I had to plan my brother's funeral. Before you ever drink and drive, think about having to plan your best friend's funeral, because it's not an easy thing to do. It was the summer after I graduated high school, and I should have been laughing and hanging out with friends and enjoying being young, but instead I was burying my brother. There are a lot of things that are dumber than drinking and driving, but it's a really short list, so think about it. Thank you.
As you can see, alcohol affects people in different ways. It does different things to different people. Drinking and driving can shatter lives. I agree with Brittany. You think that you're invincible. It's not going to happen to you. I'm sure Miss Reba's son thought it'll never happen to me. Or his brother thought it'll never happen to me. I'm careful. I take chances, but I'm careful. Smithville, Texas has been very fortunate. We in the city have not lost a student, and I think it's over 10 years, give or take. I would love to go another 50 years before that happens, or longer. Bastrop County cannot say that. Bastrop High School cannot say that. This program is not designed to get you to stop drinking. I wish you would, but it's not designed to get you to stop drinking. The program is designed to get you to make smart choices. If you're with someone who's been drinking, don't get in the vehicle with them. If you've been drinking, don't get behind the wheel. I strongly encourage you, parents, students. Parents go talk to your students, students go talk to your parents. Get some kind of code word that if you're out somewhere and you need to ride home, have a code word set up. All your parents, they will come get you. They may be mad at you, they may yell at you, but you're there for them to yell at. And they're there for you to be yelled at. That concludes the program. I would ask you to be seated for just a few minutes while my participants get up and exit. ahead. And I will say as they walk out, fortunately this casket up here is empty, but it is a representation of what could be. Up here on the front of the stage, you will see numerous obituaries. I encourage you, when you leave, walk up and look at some of them. And hopefully, they will remain as fake as they are. They are fake. They're real people, but they're fake obituaries. Those people you saw walked out, they are walking, they're alive, they're talking, laughing. Let's keep them that way. Let's keep you all that way. Thank you all very much.